Holy crap, guys. It's a show. Can you believe that? We're finally back. Oh!
Well, we've had a lot of life happening
Oh my
for the last
goodness.
several months.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Guys, I have to. I'm so sorry it's taken this long for us to get on the show back on the air again. A lot has happened since our last show. As you guys, those of you who have been following us, as you know, was trying to get into a new house. I'm in my new house, hence I don't have my We the People banner behind me. This is my new home office, and I'm going to brag a little bit because I was bragging to Erica and Justice pre-show. But this is my home office. So I am so excited that I'm finally in my new house and in my new home office, and I can get back into the swing of things. So thank you guys for being patient. But obviously, geez, we should probably do introductions, don't you think? I mean, it's been so long. Welcome to the Justice Revolution, y'all. My name is James Patriot, ever so faithful-ish. I say that ish host. Got my co-hosts with me, Erica and Justice. Erica, say hello. What is new in your world?
Hey, everybody. I did it, you guys.
Nothing.
I had a baby.
Nothing.
That was kind of the big deal before. I didn't go to a single doctor's appointment or a midwife appointment. No ultrasounds, no amniocentesis or genetic testing, blood draws, glucose tolerance tests, all of those appointments they have you go to.
Yeah.
I had 3 C-sections beforehand years ago. And I just knew that this was the path that I wanted to take. I made my own prenatals from the earth and just listened to my body the entire time. And I had nothing telling me, yeah, the baby's in the right position for birth. I had none of that. I was just completely trusting God every single step of the way and listening to my body. And I delivered an 8-pound, 8-ounce. Now we have 4 boys. Our oldest is 21 and our youngest is 8 weeks now. And yeah, he's an absolute dream. He is perfect. He was in the right position. Everything went great. Brad delivered him in our front room. The night Hurricane Burl came through. I think that's what helped, because I was in 6 days of early labor.
Oh, wow.
But that's what my body needed to do to prepare. If I'd have gone into a hospital, what they would have done to me,
oh yeah,
I know what they would have done.
They would have pumped you so full of Pitocin you wouldn't have known what was up or down or left or right.
Right. And it just, the whole experience, you guys, I just feel the need to say this it was transformative as a woman to go through unassisted, unmedicated, completely raw, and just it leveled me up in life and in my understanding and knowledge of things natural and our creator and how perfect the design is for everything. And it was just the most amazing experience. And Brad will tell you the exact same thing. It was the most amazing thing that either of us has ever seen or done. So,
it never ceases to amaze me that human beings have been on this planet for how many thousands of years now. And it was only recently that you've been told, oh, you can't have a baby at home. You got to go out.
Right. Exactly.
Human civilization survived prior to hospitals. Yeah. So good for you.
And I designed all my own birth documents.
Wow.
And, drafted those myself according to the common law. And the most undocumented human ever. Besides all the Amish and everyone else in the world. I always forget that, this is not a new thing, Erica. Everyone, this is.
Well, again, and just for those of you listening, we get this question a lot. I hear it a lot. People say, well, what is the common law? Where can I find the common law? You guys, the common law is called the common law because it's just common sense. It just makes sense. And if it doesn't feel right, guess what? It violates the common law. It's simple. It's just as simple. The golden rule has stood the test of time ever since Christ walked the earth. that's how it is. So
It's natural law, the law of mankind, the law
there
of
you
nature.
go. God's law, natural law, whatever you want to call it. It's just, and it's nothing that our founders, I mean, what our founders put on paper was nothing new to people. They just put it on paper because they're like, hey, if it's written, it has more power and authority, and we want to show that. So
Do no harm to others.
amen.
Period. Yeah.
Amen.
Live in honor, do no harm.
Yeah. So excited for you, Erica. I had a medical birth with my first, and said I ran as far in the opposite direction with my second. And all you women out there, don't be afraid, because God's been doing this for a long time, and it is empowering and a beautiful experience.
Yep.
Everyone I've talked to has had a traumatic birth in a hospital. Every single person. And I worked in labor and delivery for a while too. And I never saw natural labor and delivery in the hospital. It always ended up in intervention somehow, either pain medicines or epidurals, and it robs you.
Yeah.
It robs you of the beautiful thing that can happen to your spirit. I'm just,
you know what, Erica, I will say, having had your baby naturally at home, you now know what it's like to feel the pain that a man goes through when he has a cold. So
yeah, something like that. It was kind of like
us a little more sympathy.
No, you poor baby.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry. There's no. I'm sorry. That's a joke. Okay.
That is funny though, because we get it, James. It's very
people funny. that are gonna be like, can you listen to what he said? No, that's a joke. I'm joking. I'm not being serious. God bless you. There's a reason why women have babies, because if men did, then the human race would have died off a long time ago, because we just couldn't do it. We couldn't.
There's no way. There's no way you could do it. There's just absolutely no way.
Yeah. So anyway, well, that's awesome, Erica. We're so happy for you. We're glad we're all back again. But Justice, what's you're sitting in front of, it looks like some horses out there. It looks awesome.
I am. I got some little babies back here. Can't really see them, I guess. But
they're back to the other side. Yeah, there they go.
Yeah. Well, there's the field. So one of them, she's in the shade back there under the tree. Well, I'm at the place where I think everybody knows that we got my daughter a horse a year ago, and I fell into the horse world.
Yes.
And in April, I rescued a horse. So now I have one as well.
You do?
I do. We drove up to Idaho to get her.
I'm coming up to do some riding. It's been a while, but I'm going to come up and do some riding anyway.
Beautiful place. We ride back there. We go over those mountains and ride in the juniper trees. And
that is awesome.
The horses are out in this field every night. And so we rescued a girl, and we drove up to Idaho to get her. And her name is Coco. So we now have Sky Blue and Coco. And
awesome.
Beautiful animals. Talk about healing. We sit out here every night when we let the horses out for an hour, my daughter and I, and suck in the healing of God's nature and the beautiful animals. And
there's nothing better than just sitting in nature and just listening to the birds, watching animals. I mean, so my new house, you guys, yes, thank you for all of you who've said congratulations on the new house. Thank you so much. It was an insane, what's the word I'm looking here for? The most stressful experience ever.
Moving is on the list of the top most stressful experiences that you have in your life.
Let alone building and moving.
Moving and then building a house. I mean, guys, there was, for a while there, my wife and I were like, crap, we're going to be homeless, because the builder would not get the stinking house done. I mean, we thought we were going to be homeless. I mean, it was massive stress. Finally, we're in here. But what I'm getting with this is I now have an acre of property. It's not 26 or 27, what Erica sits on, or however
34.
Okay, sorry. Excuse me. 34 acres that Erica's got. It's not that much property, but I do have a little drainage pond, slough, whatever you want to call it. And we've seen a couple of foxes. We've seen, there is oh gosh, I can't think of that rodent that I wanted to think of. It'll come to me. There's a beaver.
Marmot?
No, not a marmot.
Mink?
Possum? Groundhogs?
No, not groundhog. Gosh dang it. I'll think of what it is here in a minute. It's kind of, it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, there's a beaver that swims through the pipe that we have that runs under the street. He's got a little dam on the other side of the street over there. So there's a beaver that comes through every now and again. I've seen there's frogs galore, bullfrogs out in the middle of all the time. So it's fun to just sit on the back patio and just to listen to them and see all that stuff. But you're right. There's something healing about just being in nature.
Mm-hmm. An acre's a nice size, James. We live on an acre, and all my neighbors have an acre, so it's like we're in the middle of the woods. Because
I know that's what I love about it. Is like my closest neighbor. I mean, I can see the house, but it's at least it's more than a football field away from me.
Yeah.
So it's not like these these homes that are just being built on top of each other, so these builders can make as much money as they want.
Tract housing, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. It's lovely. Now, please don't get me wrong. God bless you if you're in a house. God bless you if you're able to provide a roof over the head for your family. Please don't take what I'm saying. I'm just this was a huge. It is a huge blessing for me and my family. It was the most stressful experience ever. We are never moving again, ever. My wife and I are going to die in this house, so that's where we are. But
congratulations, both of you guys.
Thank you. So there has been a lot that has happened. Oh my goodness. I do want to bring some updates real quick. And then Erica has a fantastic story to tell about a good friend of hers that had some major successes with the 3-letter agency. So let me update you on mine. So as you guys remember, I was fighting the property tax situation.
On the old house.
On the old house, correct. The struggle I ran into is since I moved and no longer live in that house, it's really difficult to keep fighting that battle where I don't still have skin in the game, if that makes sense. So initially I was going to appeal the ruling that I got from the district court. I decided not to. I decided to just let the appeal run its course. So that case is essentially done. It's over. And it's actually a good thing because as I'm going more and more into this, and I got to give a shout out to Deborah. And I apologize, Deborah, if I'm pronouncing your last name horribly, but Senico. She reached out to me on Telegram and sent me a fantastic video. I think you guys have reviewed it too. She posted it in the group. And it's about this gentleman down in Texas who's uncovered a massive fraud that is being perpetrated on We the People. And I want to see if we can get him on the show at some point in time. So I'm going to be working on that moving forward with the whole property tax scheme. But essentially what it comes down to is when you look at your state's constitutions, you're going to see that we the people authorized a property tax. But what We the People did not authorize, and this is where it gets crazy, even though a property tax is authorized, we did not authorize the government to throw us out of our house to pay the property tax.
Yeah.
Okay. So what does that tell you? Let me ask the question of you two. If We the People authorize the government to assess a property tax, but we don't pay it or we can't pay it, what does it tell you where we did not authorize them to throw us out of our house and to sell our property from underneath us?
Due process of law.
Due process of law. Not only that, it's voluntary.
Right.
Okay. Just because. So let me ask. It's no different than if I was to write up a bill and send it to Erica and say, "Hey, Erica, thanks for being on the show today. Here's a bill for my time." Does Erica have to be on my show? No, she doesn't. It's voluntary. So if she chooses not to, tough luck, Buttercup. So there's some things we got to look into, and I've been following closely. There's been a lot of heated rhetoric going back and forth on not only on our Telegram channel, but also on Alphonse's Telegram channel. And again, you guys, the guy is an Eastern Pennsylvanian. He's a New Jerseyan. They wear their emotions on their sleeves. Okay. I'm not going to make excuses for the things that he said or that he does. That's not how I operate, and I choose not to operate that way. I like to be open-minded on everything I come across. There's been a number of things that I have uncovered personally since we've last been on the show. and hopefully we can talk about it at some point. But with that being said, there's a lot of things that we really need to focus on, and things that are more important. Now, I'm not saying that the property tax issue is not important, because it is. However, what's the more important thing that affects us every single day of our lives? Well, Erica has a great success story that she's going to talk about, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the income tax and how it too is voluntary, and how it has been misapplied and misconstrued to be levied on hardworking Americans who are not required under any set of laws to pay it. But if you volunteer for it, if you waive your right, then well, you waived your right because you didn't know, right? Ignorance is no excuse. So this is where we want to educate. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Erica, and then I believe she's got some things she wants to show. But Justice and I are going to be here. We're going to start asking some questions on some things. Those of you who are with us in the live chat, my gosh, we have 21 live viewers. This is fantastic. I thought we'd have like 5 just because we haven't been on air for so long. So this is, you guys, God bless you all. Good people you are. So for those of you who are watching and following along in the live chat, go ahead and post your your questions in the chat, and Justice and I will get through those as we can and bring them up to Erica as she's going. But Erica, where do you want to start?
Well, I wanted to just comment on what you said earlier about the common law, right? Like,
yeah,
this has been a big thing in my life personally, in my course of study, that I started out with my hook in the mouth moment. That's what I call it. Like, everybody who enters into these realms to study stuff, there's some sort of event that causes them to come into it, right? Like, either your kids got taken away, or you lost your house, or the IRS is coming after you, or something. Like, I lost my job.
Hit.
Yeah, I got fired because I wouldn't wear a mask and smother all day. Yeah. That's what started me. But the common law, when you said that if it just doesn't feel right to you, before I even knew anything about the law, I had this feeling every single time I would do my taxes.
Oh yeah.
Right? You guys know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
You just dread it. It's like, it feels wrong. It's like I would go into the meeting and I'd just be cursing in my head, like, why do we have to give these bastards our money? Just it didn't make sense to my spirit. Like, and if it doesn't make sense to your spirit, then it's probably not right. So anyway, I started out my studies in the law in the statutory realm, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's what everybody thinks is the only thing that exists, because that's what lawyers do. That's what judges, that's what the court systems are about. And it wasn't until just fairly recently that I started looking at the fundamental law and what is written in the supreme law of our land, which is our constitutions. And it's very simply stated in those areas, like, all the political power is inherent in the people. Yeah. And another one, like when it talks about the powers that are granted by the consent of the governed, I always thought that we were the governed, that the people were the governed. The brain child that I had just fairly recently was that as I studied trust law, it's not us that are the governed. It is our trustees who are the governed. They're the ones that take on by their consent, because in every trust agreement, you have to have a trustee who consents to taking on the responsibility of that which is outlined. Yeah. So our constitutions are completely, they're documents of negative authority, which means if it's not listed in the Constitution as a power that was granted by the people,
it's prohibited.
We don't have it.
It's prohibited.
It is prohibited, right? And that's the
just real quick, I don't want to get you off your train of thought, but that's the thing that gets under my skin, right? When you look at these politicians and they talk about, well, wait a minute, the Constitution doesn't authorize this. Yeah, but it doesn't say we can't do it. Oh!
That's what they don't understand. And they also don't understand something else, that statutes are not laws.
There you go. Oh, right? I'm so glad you say that. You're going to hear people, and just so you guys know, back in Christ's time, back when Christ walked the earth, the Roman Empire was at the peak of its existence. And the Romans had a thing called the Roman civil law. Have you ever heard of that, Erica? The Roman civil law?
A little bit, yeah.
So what it was is it was a bunch of people, and see if this sounds familiar. It was a bunch of people who had the terms of called senators. They met in the Senate, and they wrote down on a piece of paper what they wanted the people to do and what they didn't want the people to do. They all voted on it. It was a majority rules. If the majority ruled, then it was passed into law. Does that sound familiar?
It sure does. Well, here's the really beautiful thing that I've realized about the fundamental law is that, you know, God created us. We created our constitutions. Our constitutions created the branches of government. We have the legislative branch that we said, okay, we're giving you guys this much power to take care of our business because we're going to be busy doing all the things that we want to do to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. I mean, every constitution starts out with something that government is instituted for the purposes of peace, safety, and well-being of the people.
And to protect our rights. Yeah.
Since when is coming after the harvests of our labor part of peace, safety, and well-being for the people? Like, you just have to reconcile it and you go, wait a second. You guys are only created to protect our individual rights. Well, then why are you attacking me and coming after me like this?
I mean, what a lot of people don't understand is that the IRS is not part of the government. It's a private corporation, but they're in bed with the government. So it's in essence the government coming after you because they're doing it under the guise of federal, but there's nothing federal about it.
And they're taking advantage of our ignorance on what the code is really for, which is what I wanted to uncover, because as I did a study about it, because I'm like, that doesn't align with the fundamental law. Like, government was created to protect our individual rights. Why are we letting them withhold money from our paycheck? First of all, that's the harvest of our labor. And then second of all, why are we giving over a portion of it to people who aren't using it the way that promotes peace, safety, and well-being of the people?
Yeah, we're sending the money to foreign countries. Does that make sense to anybody?
No.
We can't even take care of our people that are here at home. I mean, I was just walking. I was down in Salt Lake City the other day, walked down the street, and I was tripping over homeless people.
Ugh.
We can't take care of the problem that's right in front of us, but yet we're sending billions of dollars overseas.
Well, and this is a failure of the people to understand the law, first of all, and then to instruct our public servants on also what the law is. And our constitutions say that too. We have the right of the redress of grievances when things are not the way that they should be, but we also have the duty to instruct our public servants. How many of us are going to our public servant because they don't know the law either?
Oh, they're clueless. They're clueless.
An oath to protect the Constitution, but they have no idea what it says. That's what I found out.
Don't you think that if you're going to swear an oath that you will uphold and defend a document, that you would maybe know what's in that document?
But that is exactly right. That's the exact right. That's why, remember, it says, I've given you a republic if you can keep it. Right. The reason the people need to know the law is so that we can come back every once in a while and be like, okay, this is not an alignment. Let's go back to what the law says. Let's go back to what the law says, right? And that's what I did just recently at an election commission board meeting. They had no idea what the Constitution said about the law. They have all these statutes that they're trying to keep up with.
Yeah, they think the statutes reign supreme, and they don't.
Right. And if the statutes aren't in pursuance to the Constitution, which they're not, then they're null and void. So it's set up beautifully. We just have to do this return to finding out what the law actually is, and then bringing it back to our public servants to be like, hey, just wanted to remind you, just wanted you to know, because they don't know it either. They're the prison guards who are also the prisoners.
Can you guys, I want to interrupt. Can you guys see these wild turkeys?
Hold on, let me blow. Oh, yeah.
Of America.
They're just wandering through like they own the place, huh?
I've got a yard full of them. Yeah, that's like, I don't know, seeing a cat or a dog or something around here.
Talk about an American bird. I just had to. I'm like, there's a moment. They're coming. They're circling around that whole pen. There's like 20 of them.
Well, you guys know that Benjamin Franklin wanted to make the turkey our national bird, right? Did you guys know that?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really glad that they settled on the majestic eagle.
But all that to say that when we the people decided to create this group of things called our government, we gave them a tiny bit of power, but we accepted all of our rights completely away from them. There's no law that can be made on what we are allowed to do. We're free. We're sovereign. The people are sovereign in America. That's why it's the most beautiful system and the last bastion of hope for the world. You guys, this is like, if we don't do it right, then all else is going to just fall to hell, because we're the only ones who've been given this really beautiful opportunity to have a republic, which is based on laws. But if we don't keep returning our servants to what the law says, they're going to go crazy, like employees who are left alone after the owner of the business goes on vacation to Tahiti for a couple of years. You come back and you find them running the place all kinds of weird ways. And that's what we're doing. We're waking up as a people, and we're realizing how we've been hornswoggled. Like,
I love that word, by the way.
I love that word. I have completely uncovered what happened. I was like, how did it get to the point where people just think like death and taxes? Those are the only two things that are certain in life, right? Death and taxes.
Because the IRS put that context in the brains of people.
Well, there was a lot of really brilliant things that they did in the name of greed, because they realized that the people were ignorant. Well, they took advantage, just like everything else. They take advantage of your good nature and your ignorance. Like,
well, we've talked about this before, right, Erica? Where when did we start to see our nation move away from self-governing, and where we just accepted what we were told? When did we start to see that? I mean, people can say, "Oh, it was 1940s with Franklin Roosevelt administration," or "No, it was 1913 and 15 with Woodrow Wilson." I would dare say, and this is probably going to ruffle some feathers, so if it does, I'm sorry. I would dare say that it actually started with what most people consider one of the greatest presidents of all time. You guys know who I'm talking about?
Lincoln?
You got it. I would dare say that where we started to move away from self-governance and into a state of dependence was during the Civil War. Because what happened during the Civil War is for all intents and purposes, the Constitution was suspended. And we were put into a state of martial law. Here's something that I didn't know, and again, this is just speculation. This isn't my personal opinion, but it makes sense. It's the thing. What I didn't know was at the end of the war, at the end of the Civil War, there was no peace treaty signed. That's what ends a war, right? So, like when you look at World War II, World War I, any of the other major wars. You got the Treaty of Versailles, which ended World War I. You've got the other treaties that were signed on the deck of, I think it was the Independence or the Missouri, I can't remember, that ended World War II with Japan, and then also with Germany. But there was no treaty signed between the North and the South. And the reason why is because the North never legitimately took They never took the legitimacy of the South. You're not a sovereign nation. You're part of us. You're trying to break away from us. So there was no treaty to end it. So if there's no treaty to end it, how do you end hostilities? You just stop shooting each other, which is what they did. So technically, we have been in a state of perpetual civil war.
Yes. My husband's from the South Carolina, and we have a Confederate dollar bill in a frame and the flag that flew over the Capitol. And he says it. We're still in the Civil War.
We're still in a state. So we often ask ourselves, like when we go into some of these courts, like that's what they call them, but they're not courts. They're just administrative procedure chambers. But we go into these courts and we say, well, wait a minute, I have the Constitution protected right for this. And you'll hear the judge say, don't bring that Constitution crap into my courtroom. Mm-hmm. How many of us have heard that? I know I have. Mm-hmm. Erica, I know you have.
Yeah, it's because, well, they're administrative hearings. They're not courts of record. Like, I mean, they're not courts for the people. It's this whole
so convoluted. It's so convoluted. So then we go back again. I didn't want to take this off in this direction, but I feel like this is important, and I think we're going to have to do this episode in 2, maybe 3 shows because of what Erica has to share. It's important to know and understand. Go back in history and look at what happened. The Civil War ends. Lincoln is assassinated. We've got his number 2, who was actually a Southern Democrat, who was put into, now takes position. We've got everything that happened. And in 1871, that's a big year. 1871. You guys can just do your own research on it, but you're going to find little nuances were formed. What happened in 1871? Well, the United States was incorporated. So prior to that, the United States was a territory. It was known as 50 sovereign states that agreed to self-govern, like what Erica said, right? Where we, the people, have fallen off the wagon is we have failed to realize it is our responsibility, not the elected officials. It's our responsibility to ensure that we are self-governed. And if they're not following the way that they're supposed to, then we need to call them out. But it's been going on for so long, we haven't done it. And we're just like, whatever. We're just going to go along to get along.
Well, they took civics out of school, James, and that's where a lot of people also get lost.
Yes.
Because they don't really realize and understand how the government's run. Yeah. And the self-governance of our Republican Constitution. So
I wasn't taught anything that I'm about to share with you guys at any point in my life, ever. And I was a public school girl. I went to my whole life.
I was a public school girl too.
Yeah. I mean, they make you take government and econ your senior year, right? Yeah. And it's like, all I remember about those classes was getting better at euchre.
Yeah.
They put the coaches in those classes, and they didn't really care about teaching us stuff. And maybe you memorized a couple of amendments or something like that, but you didn't ever get the message that we, the people, are the sovereign. We're the bosses. We're the ones who are allowed to do whatever we want. And we said, you know what? We're really busy living our lives, pursuing our happiness and our life and our liberties and travel and everything that we want to do, because we can do whatever we want as long as we don't harm anybody. But there's a lot of business details that we really don't want to do. So here's these enumerated powers for you guys outlined in the Constitution that we need for you to do for us. And so some of those things are like, regulating commerce, which they take to the nth degree. And that's how a lot of offenses happen. They say, oh, we're assessing your property tax because you're in commerce, because it's, they'll say that it's something, or you have to go to the BMV and get your license. Well, that's only for people who are in commerce, who are making money on the roads. You don't need a license, but it's just taken over our lives. They can do the post office. They can take care of coining the money. They can take care of, just these certain little things, the common defense. So we gave them this much power to be able to do, and then they went crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why we have to learn this stuff, because we're the bosses, and we have to look at the job descriptions, and we have to be like, okay, no, it feels wrong that you're doing that, but why does it feel wrong? Let's look it up and figure it out why.
A good point to that, Erica, and not to cut you off, a good point to that is power corrupts people.
Right.
Power. I mean, how many, Erica, when you were in nursing, did you ever work for a terrible boss?
I had a couple.
And you could tell, right? Because they were in a quote unquote position of power, and they loved to yield that power. That's what I think what happened to the madness of society in 2020 through 2022, 2023, so many people were given or were perceived to have had a little bit of power. Oh boy, did they use that and corrupt it. I mean, get on a freaking airplane. You want to see somebody who let the power go to their head, get on a freaking airplane during that time and see some flight attendant going, you need to wear the face covering, the face diaper. It
happened to me. It did.
So, but it was a test. In my opinion, that was all a test. And like Erica was saying, you know, they went crazy, but they went crazy over a long period of time.
Exactly.
They pushed a little and pushed a little and pushed a little. And now they said, let's just see if we get BALLSY, what they do. And people comply. So we're shooting ourselves in the foot. And this is where you and all of us that don't comply go, wait, you're taking away our liberty, but we're the ones that have the instinct that something was wrong to begin with, going all the way back to paying taxes and so forth, where a lot of people just don't have that instinct. I'll just go along to get along.
So real quick, I want to touch on something that Erica said, and then I'll turn it back over to her. So Erica said, you know, when we go, we're applying for a license we're applying to get a license to drive, but we're not acting in commerce. So the Supreme Court has actually said, a license is asking for permission that you otherwise already have a right to do.
Right.
Does it make sense? Why do I need to ask for permission? So I'm helping a friend of mine, real quick. I'm helping a friend of mine defend against ridiculous litigation where he's got some stupid municipality trying to tell him what he can and cannot do with his house. That A, doesn't create a public nuisance, B, doesn't create a safety hazard for the public at large, and C, doesn't violate anyone's rights. So again, what business is that of the city? It's not.
But yeah, where is it a constitutionally granted power from the people for them to even come at him?
There you go. Well, what it comes down to is the city didn't receive the money or grant him permission to do what he's doing. It always comes down to money. At the end of the day, it does.
So one of the things I wanted to, I don't know, have you guys ever seen the cartoon movie Aladdin?
Oh, yeah.
Like Aladdin spends the whole movie trying to get away from being the genie because he's always like, poof, what do you need? Poof, what do you need? And he doesn't want to do that. He wants to be free to live his life the way that he wants to, right? Mm-hmm. So the way that he tricks Jafar at the end, because Jafar has this desire to have the ultimate power. Mm-hmm. He says, as a genie, you can have the ultimate power that you want. But he fails to tell him that there's itty bitty living space, right? So that's what I feel like our politicians, they get into this line of work because they can make a ton of money outside of what they get paid, mm-hmm. you know, doing who knows what, honestly. Yeah. I don't know how they make all that extra money, but they believe they wield this ultimate power. It's time for us to make them remember that they're in the itty bitty living space, mm-hmm. and there's a leash on them, and they can only do a small amount of things, but it takes us reminding them of what it is. Most of us don't even know how we got into paying income tax, right? Yes. That's what I wanted to just give the heads up about, because I didn't know either. And as I studied it, I was like, what? That's the trickery that they led us down? Like that's what they're doing? So is it okay if I start into
yes.
to that topic here?
Run.
Yeah. No, I think this is a good segue point. And like I said, I think we're probably going to have to break this up over a couple of shows.
Yeah.
Just because there's going to be so much information, and we want to make sure it's being presented in a way that people can digest this. So, but yeah, the floor is yours. Well,
all right.
Not on the floor, but you know what I mean.
So I know that a lot of the people listening, they already know a lot of this stuff about the basics of the income tax, but for those who are just listening new, and I'm recommending that my friends and family watch this because they don't know what has been going on. There's a difference. There's a couple of things that were allowed to be given as taxes in our constitutions. There's two types. There's indirect taxes and there's direct taxes. So the indirect taxes, those are your point of purchase. Like, you know, there's a tax on alcohol, there's a tax on cigarettes, there's a tax on gas, there's stuff like that. certain activities too, that are considered privileges. But
excise tax.
Yeah, those indirect taxes, they can all be avoided if you don't want to pay them. You can just not buy cigarettes or not buy alcohol or not do whatever activity that assumes the tax within the law. But then there's this other thing called the direct taxes. And they're taxes on like ownership. Some of them are called capitation taxes, decapitation, like head. If you have a head, you're getting a tax. But it's always apportioned according to the census. So they divide it up separately, and there's rules on it. Like it can only last for a certain amount of time, 2 years tops, I believe it was. And it has to be repealed and or renewed. And just so that you have that basic amount of knowledge about those two kinds of taxes.
And real quick too, to touch on that, the direct tax is required. What Erica means by apportioned is it must be uniform and equal to everyone.
Right. It's like a 2% tax on every single person. And it's usually for things like the common defense. The last time we used it, as I'll talk about here in a second, was with World War II, with the victory tax. And that's part of the hornswoggling, just so you know, that's part of how it all worked out. But so something else you need to know about too is the 16th Amendment. I had a gal contact me over the last week that was talking about the 16th Amendment and how, like, I'm going to share my screen here because I've got some definitions and stuff that I wanted, because for me, I'm one of those people that if I don't see it and read it, that I'm just like, I don't believe it fully. So I like to see it in writing. So I'm going to share this. Hopefully, let me know when it's sharing. I hit the share button.
You got to hit present and then hit share.
Yeah, it did that, and it's just not. Over?
So it'll ask you if you want to share like a window, your entire screen, or a tab.
Yeah, I'm trying to share the entire screen. I don't know what the problem is. I'm the biggest technotard ever, you guys. I really am.
Put the link, if it's a link, put the link in the private chat, and then I'll try to share it.
Okay.
And look in your settings and make sure. Did you sign in, or did you come in with the guest link?
I came in with the guest link.
Okay. That might be.
I don't think you have share capabilities as the guest link, and I don't know if can we allow that. Let me see.
I think so.
I'll look here, guests.
Well, as I figure that out, I'll keep going here. But the 16th Amendment, it says that they're allowed to lay and collect taxes on it. If you read it just in the basic language, it makes it seem like they're allowed to tax anybody and everybody without it being apportioned. Right? That's what the 16th Amendment says. I'll be able to share my screen here in a second, hopefully. But so it doesn't, the 16th Amendment, now some people argue it was never actually really ratified. They argue that there's no enabling clause, so it doesn't give Congress power, right? Those are just issues of form, really. But think about it in terms of the spirit of the Constitution. Our government was created to protect our individual rights, right? How does being able to tax everyone on money that they make for any reason, no matter how they get it, how does that align with that? So these are the common sense sort of things that I am thinking about when I'm trying to make sense of all of this. It's still not letting me share my screen for some reason, which is a major bummer because I have lots of resources.
Do me this favor. Copy the go up in your tab you wanted to share, because I assume it's a web page.
Yeah, I have a bunch of tabs open across the top.
Yeah, so just copy the web page and put it in the private chat, and then I'll just share the screen on my end.
Oh, okay. That'll work. I'll just do that. I can't join the chat either. It's not letting me. This is amazing.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
That's interesting because it says anyway, let me see if I can work on that.
All right, but so what the 16th Amendment actually did, it didn't give any new taxing powers, okay?
No.
And and it didn't give any new or accepted subjects. It wasn't a tax on any new or accepted subjects. It was just kind of it didn't change the character of the tax.
Mm-hmm.
So if you read that, that's what most people do. They read that 16th Amendment and they think, oh, I have to pay a tax, right? It's not, it's like, it's an excise or a duty with respect to the privilege of carrying on a United States activity or owning a United States property which produces income. And if you look up the definition of United States in that context, it's the District of Columbia and the territories.
Yeah, it's the United States Inc., right?
Right. Well, now I've heard a lot of conversation among the different groups about it being a corporation and that invalidating, that it's not our government and stuff like that. But in order to transfer powers from the people to a body that is able to conduct some sort of activity, it has to be in the realm of like a corporation. So it's not necessarily an evil thing that our government is a corporation. It's a dead body we had to create something in order to put our powers into it, but it has all the rules that go along with it. Just like any corporation you create, it has its articles of organization and its bylaws. That's the exact same thing. Our government, it's not a person, it's not a living thing. So the fact that we call it a corporation doesn't necessarily take away the validity that it is a thing, or that we should be able to let it do its thing. So I don't know if that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Okay. But yeah, it's not an income tax. It's an excise tax. It's measured by the reference for the income it produces. And it's not
tax.
Yeah, the income isn't the subject of the tax. It's the basis for determining the tax.
There you go.
Which the code never actually really defines what income is, which is really messed up.
It is messed up. I mean, Rick M has a really good point here. He says your labor is an exchange that gets capital. Gains come from income. Income is generated from investment.
So I'm going to hit on that really hard here in a second, Rick. I'm just laying some groundwork so that people who don't understand any of this stuff can understand what is happening here. So, okay, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the U.S. Constitution. I don't know if you can pull that up somehow, one of you.
Yeah,
I have it marked here, of course.
I can do it. So you said Article 1.
Section 8, Clause 17.
Okay.
It actually talks about who is liable for the income tax. There's only 3 classes of persons who are liable for the income tax, right?
Article 1, Section.
Those are non-resident aliens with U.S. source income. And again, we're talking U.S. source income, the District of Columbia.
Okay, real quick. Sorry, Erica. Article 1, what was it again?
Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17.
Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Okay.
The second class of persons are foreign corporations with U.S. source income. So both 1 and 2 that I just mentioned, they're both foreign. But it's the key there is the U.S. source income. What does U.S. in that section mean? The District of Columbia, the 10 square miles, and the territories, right? It's not us who are living in the several states,
right?
The Indiana and the Utah, and then the third class is U.S. citizens residing abroad with foreign income.
Yes.
Okay, so those are the only 3. Are those you? Are those when you're just working at like some place? That's not one of you, right? And so
I got Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 on the screen there.
Yeah, it says to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding the 10 square miles. So it's talking about DC there, as may, by secession of particular states and acceptance of Congress, become the seat of government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent. Those are the territories of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, okay, and other needful things. So what that's saying is that Congress's lawful jurisdiction, it only extends to those who live and
Yes.
work in those federal territories.
Yes.
There it is.
Congress can't make a law that tells we the people, their bosses, what to do. Okay, first of all. So there's like a big brain moment for people who've never even entered into this realm of law before.
Yeah.
Congress only has jurisdiction over their creation. We have jurisdiction over our creations, which is the government. They have jurisdiction over what they create, which is just stuff to run our defense and our business, which we gave them the authority to do. So
Right.
nowhere is Congress granted the authority to impose taxes on the people, the regular people who are working outside of that territory. So like the Indiana state people, the Union state people, the people who live in California, those are all like not regulated. Okay. So that's the second thing. The 16th Amendment didn't give any new powers, and it has nothing to do with us. The Congress doesn't have any authority to make any rules about us, second of all. And then third, Rick, this is what I'm going to tell you, that getting paid for your labor is what we call a zero-sum transaction. So even if it's this thing called income, which is a gain above what the agreed upon contract was, anything that is gained above that is considered income, but your labor is what's called a zero-sum transaction. You're swapping your labor that you give your boss for a agreed amount of money, and that's considered your private property.
Yes.
There's no gain on top of that, which is reportable. So if there's
And
no profit, there's no income, and if there's no income, then there's no taxable income. So I'm just building the case that we're not taxpayers. Okay, that's the bottom line. The majority of us are not taxpayers. So then the cleverness of how it all got started, this is all like this is like really beautiful, this trickery. Okay, so it started with the 16th Amendment that we said in 1913, right? The very first session that they had in Congress that year was they passed a bunch of stuff, but one of the things was the Corporate Tax Act of 1913. And if you look it up, Section 16, Chapter 16, Section 2A, Subdivision 1, it very clearly outlines what incomes are. They're profits, and it's from the United States, which they say are the federal territories, Alaska, DC, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines.
Yeah.
Not us, right? And it specifically, like when they say includes in law, it specifically excludes anything that's not listed. So specifically in that area, the Union States was not listed. And in fact, they had to amend it and repeal it later when Alaska became a state.
Yep.
And so it disappeared from that, right?
Yep.
So that's how it started, right? The first, they designed this thing called the Corporate Tax Act. So the greed sets in, right, from all of the money that they're getting from these people who are reading the 16th Amendment and thinking that they need to be paying a tax on their income. So then they get really clever and they pass another act that's called the Public Salary Tax Act of 1939. Look this up, you guys. Okay, it's codified in Title 4, Section 3 of the U.S. Code. They called it an act relating to the taxation of compensation of public employees. So that right there, the title of it is very clear. It's talking about compensation for public employees, people who work for the government. The language was very clear in it. I read it earlier. It's very clear, and it shows that the tax was never intended to include the citizens of the states, of the several states, just regular old people like you and me. It was only for people in that very small little area. And here's where it gets really good. Okay. So that public tax, the Salary Tax Act, right? That there, it's all lawful. I mean, it's all legal. Nothing when they're
There's nothing illegal about it. Yeah.
Right. They're just describing how they're going to behave so that they can operate to be able to take care of the individual rights of the people, right? They're organizing themselves. That's what all these rules are. So in World War II, this is where, like in 1942, the public law, it's called Chapter 619, Section 172, where they talk about the Victory Tax Act, right? This is going back to direct and indirect taxes. This is the last time that we actually used a direct tax that was apportioned across, the states like they were supposed to be, and everyone paid a 5% tax. It ended up not being completely done right because it was a graduated tax, but that's besides the point. So they've got this 5% tax, and everyone was happy to pay it because we were at war, right? We had to help our people. They were really excited about having a portion of their money to send. They weren't going to miss it. They were glad. So they added that income tax withdrawing portion for the Victory Tax Act to subchapter D of the tax code, right? But remember what we said about direct taxes, they're temporary. They only last for a certain time. They have to list specifically what they're for, and they have to have a repeal time. So Section 466, it actually provided for withholding of private sector taxes or wages. I'm sorry. That's when the voluntary system was born. That's where it started, was with that temporary victory tax. And everyone was like, yeah, I want to help. Here, take this, fund the war. And then it was still voluntary, but they actually put it into law for a short time. But here's the secret. It was repealed, but it was done secretly. They didn't announce it to the people. That was May 29th of 1944. Per the law, this is all law. This is all being done on the up and up, right? But it's the trickery and the deceit of the language. So rather than announce that it was over, that the victory tax was end, they decided, because they're greedy goons, that the politicians, they took that Public Salary Tax Act of 1939 and they renamed it the Internal Revenue Code of 1939. Internal, of course, referring to the part of the government, of the internal workings of the government employees, right? All of that. And then, so what happened at the time was there was an ignorance from the people, first of all, that the act was repealed. They didn't know that it ended. And they were all used to having their money being withheld from their paychecks, according to this. So the people just kept paying the tax. Mm-hmm. So prior to 1913, everybody knew that there could be no taxation of your private earnings, right? But the U.S. government, and that the U.S. government has no legal authority to impose a tax on regular American citizens in one of the several states, right? Unless it creates a contractual nexus. Here's where it gets juicy. Here's where all of the different offshoots of the law groups start going.
Real quick, Erica, can you define for our listeners what a nexus is?
It's just a connection.
There you go.
A nexus, a contraction. It's a way that you connect to what they're doing by voluntarily agreeing to be a part of it. Because as the people, we have the right to contract however and wherever we want. We can associate or not associate if we want.
Yeah. Diesel, I love what Diesel says here. They will take donations.
That's what they call it too. If you look at the recording of your tax money that you send whenever you do your taxes, it's listed as a gift.
Yes.
Always. It's not listed as an income tax or a law. It's listed as a gift. So thank you for your gift, everyone who continues to do this every year. But the reason, the way that they get you is because we applied for Social Security numbers. Mm-hmm. That was the contractual nexus. Because remember back in, where was it? I had it pulled up here. Let me look on my screen where it actually shows the definition of connecting. It's Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2, for those who actually can look at something. I'm sorry that we don't have the screen up like this.
So Article 4, Section 2, Clause 3 of...
No, Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2 talks about citizens of the District of Columbia are classified as property and franchises of the federal government. That's I don't know the specific language of it right now because I don't have it.
Is that the Constitution? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, let me pull that up again.
Historical background and admissions clause.
This is crazy. But remember, like, go back to the fundamental law, right? We're the people. We created. How can our creation ever gain authority over us, especially when we don't even really fully know what we're doing? They just all of a sudden started saying that.
Is that it?
Let's see. Clause 2.
Oh, is that clause 1?
Yeah, it's clause
Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2?
Yes.
Article 4, Section 3.
Clause 2.
That's Clause 1, Clause...
Right here, clause 2.
Nope. Yeah, Clause 2.
Maybe I have that.
I've got it. I've got it right here, too, if you want me to...
Go ahead, James.
I've got it. Well, it's talking about... And then it draws a connection between Section 1 of Title 26, which is the income tax section, imposing an income tax on every individual who is a citizen or resident of the United States. Okay?
Okay, so Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2.
Clause 2.
That's right here.
There it
Congress...
is. Yeah, they shall have the power to dispose of and make all needful rules and regulations respecting the territory or other property belonging to the United States. That's where they get you, right? That's the property belonging to the United States. Remember, anything the government creates, it owns and regulates, right? So like if you get an LLC and it gives you a number for it, it's created and regulated by the government. Anything that's given a number is. So our social security numbers, this is how they got real tricky about it, because we're real living people here. We didn't know that this is what they would use to say that we're now property belonging to the United States. So then that's how they connected it with Section 1 of Title 26, saying that it imposes an income tax on the income of every individual who is a citizen or resident of the United States. Right. This is so messed up. That's the connection. That's how they did it.
And nothing in this Constitution shall be so construed as to prejudice any claims of the United States or of any particular state.
This is so messed up. Like, this is so, okay. So there's this whole process, and this is why people go to such great lengths to do things like correcting their status and saying, I'm not one of your properties, or they'll rescind their social security numbers. Mm-hmm. And that really is kind of the idea. My son doesn't have a social security number. This is why. This is because as I was studying this is how they're able to then track you with everything you do. How many forms do you fill out throughout the course of your life where you give your social security number, your date of birth, and everything, right? And you click the box that says, yes, I'm a U.S. citizen. So over and over and over, you are continuing that contract of, yes, I am a U.S. citizen. Yes, I do reside in the District of Columbia. Yes, I am a taxable agent as part of this corporation. Instead of saying, no, I'm one of the several members of the several states. I'm an American citizen. I'm a Hoosier. It's all public versus private. This is exactly like the conversation that goes along with it. It's realizing who you are. So now I said all of that to make everybody realize we are not taxpayers, right?
Yes.
But here's all the things that we do that create a contractual nexus that says otherwise. We get a social security number. We sign a bank signature card. We fill out W-4s and W-9s, right? Every single time you've gotten a job, right? They hand you this stack of paperwork. One of them's a W-4 and they say, select your deductions. And you're like, what are my deductions? I don't even know. What is this form? And they're like, I don't know. I always just pick 0 or I just
We're
always...
required by law to have you fill it out.
Right. People
Which
don't know what
not.
it is. So
And
they're
not.
entering into those contracts with the W-4s and the W-9s.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even know that they're saying, yeah, please go ahead, withhold money so that I can ask for a tiny portion of it back in January. They don't know that that's what it's about. Anytime you fill out an IRS 1040 form, anytime you click a box that says you're a U.S. citizen, the federal government is assuming that you have entered knowingly and intelligently into these contracts, and you have to declare otherwise in different ways.
I just based on what you said, James, I want to let people know that your employers are not required by law to have you fill that out. Also, they are hoodwinked and pressured as well.
Yeah, and I know that firsthand. You know, working for the employer I used to work with, when I told them, I was like, no, I want out of this. They're like, no, you don't have a choice. And they basically said, if you don't do this, we're going to withhold the maximum withholdings. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
So they need to review the section of the tax code. I believe it's 1441 through 1447.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all the withholding tax agents by law, by the law. And none of the private employers are included in that list. None of them are actually tax withholding persons lawfully, but they're all getting bullied too, and everyone's living in this fear of, if I don't pay my taxes, I'm going to go to jail, or they're going to take my house, or they're going to take. Well, first of all, if you know the law and you know the due process of law, then you know that they need to have an affidavit sworn under the penalty of perjury that you've committed an injury against someone. Right? Like, there's this whole list of things that you have to have present. Trial by jury, like, you have to have a way to talk to your accusers, to cross witness, to have counsel, to have all these things before they're going to try to take anything away from you. So if you know this is the fun part about learning the law. You can't have someone do it for you either. That's the thing. Like, people who think they're going to get a lawyer to fight for them.
Oh, give me a break.
They're not going to stand up for your rights as the people for you. They're a private organization. So this is why you have to learn it for yourself, so that you can stand on it and know that you're not a taxpayer, and send a notice to the IRS just quoting the law. But what I found was that after you've already contracted, how do you get your money back, right?
Yes.
That's the part that I wanted to share, because I had a friend who was like, how do we do this? Because it's like they've withheld your money all these years. And so I told him, don't file until I figure it out. Well, that was 3 years. So we ended up filing 3 years worth once I did figure it out, because you have to, once they've already taken it from you, first of all, they've already spent it.
It's gone. Yeah.
It's gone. It's not even going to, people think you pay your taxes so it'll pay for things like roads and schools, and
that's what they tell you. They don't have a clue where any of that money goes or comes from.
No, it doesn't go to any of that stuff. It goes to corrupt people who are fueled with more of your funds to continue to oppress you because of your ignorance. That's where it goes. So I refuse under any circumstances ever to give any more of my energy or resources to a corrupt bunch of people, right? Especially because the law doesn't require me to, and I know it. So
yes, just like these guys, he's saying here, Brent, the government is a parasitic class under definitions of what a parasite is, for sure.
Well, and it's our fault, you guys, because
we've been ignorant.
We've been ignorant, and we've been looking for people to spoon feed us. So what I did was I drafted this document that I've been trying to share. And for everybody who's asked me for it, I promise you, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just having like technotard issues of formatting and getting all of my charts and graphs and all of my images and everything loaded in a way that I can share it. I do have it pulled up here on my screen, but I can't share it. I will.
So let's do this.
Okay.
Everybody loves a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I apologize because I've got to take off. I've got another meeting I got to be to in about 14 minutes now. I need to get ready for. So let's do this. Let's plan on a show next Friday. Let me see here. And Justice was saying a show earlier in the day is better for her. So could we look at maybe doing something next Friday? We can talk about it amongst ourselves, but I want to give you the time that is needed to go over this document, and then we can get you access in as an admin, so you shouldn't have problems sharing your screen.
Yeah.
We can talk about that.
I just clicked on the wrong link. It's just me. I'm challenged in so many ways.
Well, I'll get you in
all day long, but if you tell me to, like, I don't know.
Well, I'll get you in before we connect.
Yeah.
Sure
So let's talk about doing a show a little earlier, and we can talk about the time. But I think what we've done is we've done a good job. I shouldn't say we. What Erica has done a good job of explaining the background behind all of this and where we've been. You can't even say hoodwinked, because here's the thing. The Supreme Court has said that if you're going to waive one of your constitutionally guaranteed rights, you must do so knowingly and willingly, and you must be informed.
Right.
Those things. Okay.
And there are constitutions that say that you cannot make a compact that waives your rights.
Exactly. Like, you can't. It just, again, it violates what Erica said. It doesn't feel right. Something about this doesn't feel. I mean, and I felt like this a long time. Like, I remember when I first started working, and I'd have to go pay the tax, fill out the tax forms. I was like, what the frick? I mean, these guys are taking so much of my money and they're doing nothing.
Right.
Same thing. Like, it doesn't make sense that if I put a deck on the back of my house or build a pole barn with a concrete floor, that now I get charged more money.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you need a permit.
Property. That makes no sense to the spirit. Like, anything that makes your spirit go, wah, 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 there's something wrong there.
Yeah.
So there's a couple questions that I starred. So can we just see if we can answer?
Yeah, let's get to those. Okay. So Rick M says, can we send notice to tax preparers that they are worrying and attacking the people by promoting the system without giving the people proper information? You know what, Rick? I'll be honest. I don't even think they know that they're promoting.
That's what the notices is for. And in fact, I included a notice into the paperwork that I did. I said, you're misleading the people by saying this, right? And
yeah, I love it. That's great. I can't wait to see this show next week.
Rick, I want to send this message to you too, and to everyone, if you want to be the sovereign that we all want to be, if you want to be the captain of your own ship, these are things that we send. Yeah, you can do whatever you want, Rick.
Exactly.
Okay.
No one's telling you no.
No one.
If it's a notice, I mean, what are they going to do with a notice?
You are the captain of your own ship. And this is what every success that I've had so far, no one told me I could or couldn't do it. There was nothing laid out for me that said, this is how you should do it. I just said, you know what? I'm going to do it because I am a sovereign of my own life. But that also means I accept the consequences of it too. I'm not going to have anyone to blame for it if it doesn't go right. And that's why I hate it when when these government agencies make you say things like, you're not allowed to say that particular natural health product will cure you. You're not allowed to give any advice without saying the words that this is not tax advice. Yeah. No one's going to tell me what I have to do in order to do what I want to do. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to accept the consequences for it. And the same thing with all of you. When you're looking for remedy, just be the captain of your own ship. Do the studying for yourself and act on what is the direction that you're being told to go in, and be okay with it.
Yeah. Leslie Liberty, and I'm assuming this was in response to something where you were talking about in a contractual nexus.
That was the government with the Social Security.
Oh yeah, but they don't sign anything. So how are we in a contract?
You're not. They're just presuming that you are, but that's good enough for them. They'll still come after you with harassment letters. They'll still come and take your house if you don't,
if you don't fight it, you're agreeing to it.
Right.
So there's a couple of things with this, right? So you guys have heard of the term a quasi contract.
Yeah.
You know what quasi means?
Kind of.
It's kind of, sort of, but not really.
Yeah.
Right. So we've heard of you've heard of these companies or these organizations that regulate the mortgage industry. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac are quasi-governmental agencies.
Mm-hmm.
They act like they're government agencies, but they're not. No, because they're not. There's no such thing as quasi. You're either in a contract or you're not. There's no in between. So this is the entire premise that our system that we live under runs on.
Yeah.
Right.
And
if you're on your own, driving down the road, and you get pulled over by a road pirate, and he gives you a ticket, and you go into court, and they expect you to pay a fine because they're operating under the assumption that you have agreed to contract under driving with a license.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the agreement of that is if you violate any of these penal codes, that you agree to pay a fine. That people wake up.
Yeah.
That is by definition a bill of attainder.
That's why you never sign a ticket either.
Guys, we've talked about this before, and we can get lost in the weeds on this for hours. But my point that I'm trying to make is the government today. I mean, gosh, if 1983 Soviet Union looked at our government today, they'd be like, "Hey guys, we did it. We succeeded." I mean, we're laughing, but this is communism that has been shielded under the. I mean, gosh, you want to talk about hood? What was that word you used?
Hornswoggled.
Hornswoggle. You want to talk about hornswoggling the people? Well, hey, let's tell them that they have rights. Let's tell them that they have all these things, but in reality, they don't. And when they fight us, we're going to throw them in jail. Let's see how that works out for them. That's exactly what happens.
So this Metal Chem's statement before that saying they have to prove the nexus. You're right. If they're the ones making the claim that you're required to do something, that's been my new favorite question for everything of any government actor that comes after me. I say, could you please show me the constitutionally granted authority that you have to request that of me? It's the right question. Because they're only allowed to do what we gave them the permission to do. It doesn't matter how many statutes they create. They have to be pursuant to the Constitution. And if they're not, they don't have the authority, and they can't produce it. So yeah, you can ask for, that's why I haven't done all of the things about, changing my status. I'm always presenting myself in these situations as one of the people.
I do the same thing. You guys have known, I've shared this before, where I've received letters from the IRS regarding stuff, and I write them back and I go, by what authority?
Right.
What authority do you have to impose this on me, one of the American people living in one of the several states?
Right.
So even with all of that studying with the gurus, there's so many different paths to go down with the tax stuff, right? We've all been there. Everyone listening is familiar with everybody that I have already researched too. And the reason that I ended up going with the method that I did for my friend, which was successful, was because I actually wanted to get the money back.
Yeah.
Now you can go on principle and you can be like, excuse me, I found out that I'm actually not a taxpayer and I'd like to have all my money back. But then you'll never hear from them and you'll never get your money back, right? And you'll never get the full amount of your withholdings back, which also I helped him do. So
with interest, mind you.
With interest. Yeah.
Ooh, I can't wait for this show. Okay, you guys, I'm so sorry. I got to pull the plug. Like I said, I got to jump off for another call. Gosh dang, work gets in the way every time, But I am going to be waited with bated breath on this. This is going to be so exciting because all of us have been here. We've all been trying to do this. And it's like Erica said, there isn't a blueprint that's out there. In fact, the people that have been promoting the fact that this is a fraud and a myth and we don't have to do this, the government has told them to shut up. So I've been watching the chat. A lot of people have been talking about Dave Champion. He's got a book called Shattering the Income Tax, Shattering the Myths. I've actually got it sitting right over here. It's a fantastic read. A federal district court in California has ordered him to shut up, basically.
Well, and funny too, I contacted him directly and told him of the situation that I was helping my friend with. And he's like, wow, it sounds like you need a consultation, pay for $300 to talk with me for a little bit and we'll get it hammered out. And I was like, you know what?
Again, it's why people have always asked me, is like, why don't you charge people for what you're doing? Why don't you do this? And Justice knows, Erica knows, I don't feel comfortable taking money from people for teaching them something that I feel that we all need to know.
Yes.
The more of us who are free, the better we all are.
I agree. I agree.
agree.
So anyway, with that, you guys, I apologize. I've got to jump off. If you two want to hang on for a little bit longer, that's totally great. I got to jump off. But I'm so glad we're back. Oh my gosh, it makes me feel so much.
Well, we've missed you, James. We've missed you, Erica. And I'm glad that this is a great show to get started again.
Man.
And we look forward to seeing everybody.
And I can't wait. So what we're going to do, so the title of this show is Tax Basics, What You Need to Know. And I believe we went over the basics. So we will do part 2. So this is part 1. We will do part 2 coming up hopefully within a week. Maybe next Friday or whichever day I can squeeze some time in. And I'm excited to see what Erica has. We'll get all of the technical snafus out of the way so Erica can share her screen, the documentation that she used to help her friend. Excited about this because I know personally the IRS has over 50,000 of my dollars that I want back, and they're ignoring me. So I'm excited to see what methods to take because I'm ready to freaking bang the door down. So with that, you guys, I'm gonna sign us off. But Justice, Erica, do you have anything else you guys want to say before we wrap it up?
Nope.
Just one quick thing, just to answer some of the questions about charging for consultations. That comment that I made. A workman is worthy of his hire. Okay. Exactly. I'm going to say that. If you have special expertise on things, then by all means, and if I started going into a situation where I was helping people individually one-on-one with all their stuff, there's not enough time for me in the world to not charge for it, to make myself able to do it.
We all need money.
Right. Well, in this world currently, yes.
Yeah.
But what I discovered was nothing. This is not unique to my brain. It's not my proprietary whatever. It's something that I can just guide you to. Yeah. It would be ridiculous for me to charge for that. So yes, just some people, they're supposed to charge for their consultation. They are worthy of it. They have sunk hours and hours and hours of their life and time into it, and it's a good thing that they charge for it.
Well, so. In Erica's words, since she has said she's a technotard, if Erica the technotard can figure this out and help her friend, and I'm not saying, please don't think I'm saying that.
No, it's not taken. No.
And Eric, it's again, and it's like where I come from too. I'm not a genius. I don't have a college degree. I'm not a particularly intelligent individual, but I did learn how to read and I learned how to comprehend. And I'm pretty sure that's what you're coming through too, Erica, is that you learned how to read and you're like, oh my gosh, I just didn't know where to go to find the information. And now that I do, I'm going to share the information with my brothers and sisters. So, so excited. Can't wait. Okay. For that, guys, we're going to sign it off. Love you all. Thank you for our loyal watchers and listeners. We appreciate you. We love you all. Again, as you guys all know, C to AZ, you've been awesome. Hit the thumbs up. It really helps us out. Get the show out there. As you guys know, with this whole algorithms garbage that they do, blah, 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 blah. But again, it does get more people, new people to the show. They're like, hey, what's this about? This is interesting. We want to get more. We just want to be able to share the love with everybody. So, all right, you guys, with that, we'll sign it off. Thanks, you guys. Love you all. Appreciate you.
Bye.